Good night, everyone. It's December 11th, 2020. With this, we start the show Confirmado la Moncloa, a review of the Spanish political situation. It will be around 30 minutes long to focus on a few ideas. As always, we will start with a comment of the day. Today's comment is that today has been an intense day. We have done a few special shows today, the one of the flights with the illegal immigrants, and that the government tried to say that they didn't know anything about them and that they paid themselves the flights. Well, according to the laws, they have to identify anyone that wants to get on a plane. And if it's someone that has entered the country in an illegal way, you have to deport them back. It also has been an intense day because we also explained in a special show how to obtain the declaration of assets of the representatives of the Congress and the Senate. And we have asked all of those followers that act like little ants helping one another to try and help us find the irregularities and the things that aren't summing up correctly to see if there's something wrong with the declaration of assets. Because many of us, like those that help us, think that this government that only lies must fall, must be finished and be another government. And we have asked those followers to help us with the declarations of assets of the representatives so that we can do the same we did with Meritxell Batet. That she reduced in 300,000 euros her mortgage without selling any property or anything, which is quite surprising. And also, for example, those representatives that say that they pay around 21,000 euros of the taxes, personal taxes, but that their only income is being a representative of the Congress or the Senate, it doesn't quite add up. And we think that in the following days, there will be a lot of pressure to all of those that we try to say the truth, that we try to explain what the government and the media aren't saying, and that will mean more pressure on us. But we must keep on going, and we will do so until we have to. And we start with the headlines. The first one, the government of the lies. The second headline, the number of deaths for COVID-19 according to the Office for National Statistics. Many more have died from COVID-19 than the government has said. And according to the government, the difference in the numbers is just a small slip-up, as if the people that are dead are just going to wake up one day and just come here and be alive with all of us. But the statistics show that there are around 18,000 more deaths from COVID-19 than the ones declared from the government. And Minister Illa simply said it was like a small slip-up. Please remember, they are people. They had name and surname. They had family, friends. They're not just a number. People that a month ago were talking, laughing, they felt, and people that unfortunately, because you are in the government, Minister Illa, and the government in itself, these people have died because of the negligence of this government. The third headline would be the flights of the illegal immigrants that the national government is doing from the Canary Islands to the peninsula, and that the people from the peninsula don't know where they are arriving. Those legal immigrants that have arrived in small ships in an illegal way, and that because of national security they can't get on a plane, but that the government has done so, omitting not only national but also European legislation. The fourth headline of the day is that Poland and Hungary have lifted up the veto they had on the budget of the European Union. So with that, it seems that the help from the European Union to the countries will start to arrive mid-year next year. And ironically, some media have said that the government here, the national one, will start to advance the money. The truth is that the government has no money at all, so they won't do that. And we do not understand why some media say things that aren't true. And last but not least, today, We will have the questions of the Patreon, the YouTubers, and also the bank transfers. And with this, we start with the first headline: the government of the lies, or the liar government. For example, Minister Illa doesn't want to give the name of the experts of the committee. So it's obvious that it doesn't exist. But if transparency makes you say who they are, and Minister Illa doesn't want to do so, we think that the Council of Transparency should directly sanction or do something against Minister Illa or the government at the court. More lies of this government. Remember the visit and meeting that Spain and Morocco had to have without Pablo Iglesias, because Morocco's king vetoed Pablo Iglesias, and it seems that the king of Morocco is so furious and mad. And we must keep in mind that after all, he's the one that is going to calm the situation in the south area of the European Union. And the importance is so that even Mr. Donald Trump has recognized Morocco's sovereignty over Sahara. So if Spain was always just insignificant internationally for Morocco, right now the thing is, why meet with Mr. Pedro Sanchez? To lose the Moroccan king just his time with an incompetent person? Well, at least the Moroccan king is been coherent. Why lose his time with Pedro Sanchez that's totally incompetent? And for Spain, that just means that everyone knows that we have a government that just lies and lies and lies, and that they are amazed that so many people still keep voting the government that we have. A government that, after all, is just totally incompetent, a liar, and that just wants to keep in term in office as long as possible. And entering the second headline, about the data of the Office for National Statistics about the deaths from COVID-19 that have declared that there are more than 18,100 more deaths than the government has declared. And Minister Illa simply says that's a small slip-up. Well, Minister Illa, 18,000 people dead from COVID-19 aren't just small slip-up. They had names and surnames. It's not just a small thing. And up to now, if we add all of the numbers, we have around 70,000 people that have died here in Spain because of COVID-19. But according to the national government, it's only around 40,000. So that's another lie again. And remember that here in Spain, in 4 months, have never died so many people. Not even during the Civil War. So the official statistics say that it's more than 70,000 deaths. It's just so surprising that the media is still just centering their headlines on Rajoy, or on if the former king has been investigated or not, or if he should be investigated. They should be telling the truth, the number of deaths. And after all, we have the worst government of the history of Spain. More than 70,000 people have died of COVID-19 because of the negligence of this government. And meanwhile, the media is just trying to do nice interviews with easy questions that they already know, and saying like lies of the good things that the government is trying to say that they have done when it's not true. Trying to make believe everyone that they're doing it okay. Well, we don't think like them. We don't think that many of the people and the families and friends of those that have died because of the negligence of this government are going to be happy or are going to think that they have done it okay. A government that is managed by the Führer, Sanchez, and Iglesias, the one that's responsible for all of those retirement homes or nursing homes. Because we're in front of two people, Sanchez and Iglesias, that are more totalitarian and dictatorial than any other thing. And that's the truth. We've never had so many deaths in so little time. And we've never had so many lies in a government, and such a bad management of the government. And some still believe this government. And that's not true. This government just lies. And then getting into the flights that came from the Canary Islands to the peninsula, and that a subdelegate of the government said that the own passengers paid their tickets. Remember that according to the legislation, not only national but European, a passenger must identify itself before getting on a plane with their ID, passport, or the entry visa. And in the theory of the subdelegate, if they have really paid for their own ticket on the plane, it doesn't matter because you have to identify them, and once identified, if they're illegal immigrants, you have to tell the police, and the police must deport them back. Because not everyone can just get on a plane. In what country are we living in? It's even something about national security. Please, come on. It's not something that a government decides. It's much bigger. It's national security. Please, follow the law. And those passengers, the illegal immigrants, have flown with the authorization of the national government, so they didn't really buy themselves the tickets. And after all, nobody knows how many have come. We have no idea where they have gone. And the worst, we don't know why this has been like this. And we should all try to inform the members of the European Parliament of what's happening here with the illegal immigrants and what the Spanish government is doing about it. Since the Spanish government is violating a European legislation. And that once they have entered Spain, they can go anywhere they want from Europe. And that puts Europe at risk because of the lies of the national government we have here in Spain, and the members of the European Parliament should know all about this. And that's why the police have been deployed in Valencia because of the not control of the situation. We are not in front of a democratic government right now, but only a government that wants to take advantage as long as they can of the situation they have, and if they get money or whatever it takes, then better for them. And that's not democracy. So we must keep on pressuring, we must keep insisting, and we must keep informing the members of the European Parliament, and as ants every day keep on writing to all of them, and also to Mr. Ivan Redondo, that's made decisions that are not of his competence, and he should know he could end up in prison. And also write to Meritxell Batet, because she has to put on the website and at disposal to all of the citizens the declaration of assets of all of the representatives of the Congress and the Senate, and if not, she can also end up in prison. And keep on writing to all of those representatives and keep on pressuring and putting pressure on them, because democracy is to do the things the good way. And if you don't know how to do the things the good way, well, nobody is making you be in politics. So, Mr. Ivan Redondo, you could work on another business, even one that doesn't mind how things are done. But don't do as if people had voted you, because they haven't, and in reality you don't have the power to make the decisions you have done, nor to try to destroy democracy as you are doing. Some of us think that Ivan Redondo is going to be one of those that are going to end up one of the first before a court, and to end up in prison, because he is the responsible of the communication of this government and also of the lies of this government. And if he thinks that Sanchez isn't just going to let him go on his own and get all of the fault, then he's a total ignorant. And Mr. Ivan Redondo should see and think where he is going and with whom. Because this government is probably just going to end up in prison. And the other headline, Poland and Hungary seem that they have lifted the veto they had on the budget of the European Union, and it seems like some people are happy because money will start getting to the countries mid next year. And even some of the media here in Spain that are just saying whatever the government wants them to say are trying to make people believe that the Spanish government is going to advance the money, and that's not true. Spanish government has no money. Or is it that people think that you collect as many taxes as other years when the businesses are closed and when the businesses are declaring insolvency? Or do you think you're going to collect more money simply by increasing the quota to freelancers? And that thing is that many businesses are just closing, and also many freelancers are closing too. they can't pay everything they have to pay. And they will try to close the businesses as soon as they can, because after all, they're not generating any income with the closed businesses. And it is logical that the bonus for this first year here in Spain comes out negative because the countries still believe in Spain, but only when it's at 10 years to pay. Because if it's at 1 or 2 years, nobody trusts this government. But in the end, this will finish. And it will finish with the government where it has to end. Probably most of them in prison. Like, for example, what happened in Catalonia. After they violated and went against the constitution and the laws, did anyone imagine that the leaders that did that would end up in prison for so many years? No, but they are in prison. After, the national government might give them the pardon or not, because they're the same kind of people, but in the end, justice comes first. And as well as the leaders of Catalonia that ended up in prison that they thought that they were untouchable, Sánchez also thinks he is untouchable. Redondo also thinks he is untouchable. But after all, when you just bring to total misery a country, not only economically, but also socially, and when you also just keep on lying and keep doing things that go against the law, and you manage in a negligent way, and there are more than 70,000 deaths because of COVID-19 and your bad management, well, you probably end up in prison. And now we will start with the questions of the Patreon, the YouTubers, and the bank transfers. The first question is, why aren't the business associations saying nothing at all? And it's true. It's quite surprising that the business associations aren't saying nothing at all. And we think that it is due because everyone just thinks about themselves. And we say about themselves, not that they worry about the businesses, but that the director, for example, is just thinking about his salary, about his money, and not about the businesses in itself. And the labor unions, well, they just want to have money to keep eating in good places with good seafood and all that. And they don't care if an employee has been fired or not. After all, in this country, people are just selfish and they just have envy of others. For me, for example, that with 70,000 deaths from COVID-19, we're more worried about what money the former king has. I'm just embarrassed of it. And that some media start their headlines on the mornings trying to say that Rajoy should be investigated, I think it's just so shameful with all of the deaths we have and the totally bad management we've had with this government. The media in this country, most of them are just such an embarrassment. The second question we have is the typical one, if this government, the national one, is going to end this year or not. Well, we don't change what we think. We do think the government is already finished. It would have finished much sooner if the opposition would have done what it had to do. What we do not know is when it's going to finish. We do know it is finished, but when is it going to be dissolved? When are we going to have a new government? If it's before the year ends, some days it seems like so, and some days not. But what we analyze, we see that this government is just going down a cliff, and some people asked us what else this government has to do for the people to go against it. Well, we don't really know. We think that the government has done everything possible. The government lies, they go against the law, they try to go around the law. They have the record of deaths of COVID-19 of the entire world. Also the record and the fall of the economy in the entire world, the false and bad management of the temporary layoffs of employees. They fool people. And the media just try to say whatever the governments want them to say instead of saying the truth. And many ignorants just still believe this government. So maybe we just deserve this government. And sometimes we just feel embarrassed having to explain things that are just real and the others don't see. For me, it was very surprising that the president of the Congress, Meritxell Batet, was able to pay a mortgage of 300,000 euros without selling anything, with no explanation at all. And this should be investigated. With this, we finish the show of today. We will think more intense days are going to come. And as we say, stick around, or as we say in Spain, seguimos.